Hi, I'm James, also known as JMO Synthetica, and last summer I released an album called AHD-JS 2419, and today we're going to go to the moon and back in Kerbal Space Program while I listen to it. And maybe I'll talk about it a little bit, or maybe I'll mainly just play Kerbal Space Program. We'll see! Alright, so first things first, before I actually hit play on this album, we gotta just get this ship in orbit first, because launching a rocket into space is a very loud process, and one that, like, a lot can go wrong, and I gotta just, like, be able to pay attention to what I'm doing a little bit closer than talking about the album. So, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, sorry, I just don't want to wait the whole countdown. We don't have time for that today. I hope you forgive me. So, this is actually a very powerful rocket ship. With just a little bit of, like, you know, care, we're going to be just fine. We have enough fuel to get us to the moon. But actually, these boosters are so powerful just on their own, and boosters you can't throttle down or anything. They just burn until they're out, basically. I actually throttled the main engine all the way down, so it's not even doing anything right now. We're flying just on booster power because, as you see, we're hitting some air resistance, and if I was just throttling up beyond that, it was just like more friction, friction's not the right word, but it's just wasting fuel at that point. You want to try to be just under where you're seeing that resistance, and even though it went away, it is still happening a little bit, so I'm going to let it just be for a bit until, well, that said, we are just about out of solid fuel, so I'm throttling up, and separation. Good separation. Also, I should probably be angling a little bit better than that. Yeah, we gotta flatten out that curve a little bit, as we do so many things in life these days. So, flattening out. The boundary for space in this game is 70,000 meters. It's like this magical boundary where you no longer have any air resistance. So I generally try to, like, just kind of peek past that and then just concentrate on horizontal velocity at that point to start forming an orbit, changing our suborbital flight into full circle all the way around the planet. Looking pretty good right now. Even though it looks like we're just going that way, we are still climbing. I'm actually going to give us a little bit more height. I'd like to apologize to everyone for my Midwestern accent. Doesn't bother me at all, but I'm sure other people are noticing it if you don't live where I live. And we are out of fuel in that stage, so goodbye. Little Tim and Eric for you. Yeah, we are looking mighty fine. Angling us in just a little more. Maybe not that much. Come on, come back. Come on. In fact, actually, at this point, I'm kind of just gonna let us get into space before we burn too much more here. Because you can plan out your, you can just plan things out a lot better once you're not having air resistance slowing down. Like right now, even though we're not doing anything, we are dropping a little bit of height purely just because there's still air that we're hitting. Little thin molecules of air. Even though we're at the upper atmosphere, just a little bit. But once we're in space, in real life, it kind of, you know, it's more gradual. But in this game, 70,000 meters is this magical point, at least for the Earth, this planetary body, where there's no more air resistance and everything just, you know, orbits stay as they are. But you guys don't care about that. We're here to talk about music mainly. This is people that are interested in the game and my album is probably a very niche audience, and I recognize that. So just bear with me as I talk about the science stuff. I've played this game a little bit. So like I kind of know what's going on. Just a couple hours. I'm not an expert, but I'm like pretty comfortable with it at this point. So with an orbit, so right now we're suborbital. If we didn't do anything, we just fall back to the Earth and crash into the ocean probably. If you want to influence your orbit, you burn in the direction you're going, and it increases the size of your orbit on the opposite side of the planet. So if we did that much, that's how we get a big old orbit. We don't want a big old orbit. We just want a normal circular orbit. So I take it back down. This is just like a planning node that I'm manipulating right now. I want to get it so both sides of the orbit are about 70,000, or, you know, a little more than that. That's probably fine. 75,000. We're trying to rendezvous with this lander right now. Lander, probably not where I had the album mastered. That's going to be what we actually land on the moon with. We got to like connect these two spaceships together and then take that thing to the moon. I just put it in orbit already to save time. Once we get a good orbit set up, we can start playing the music. So we're almost there, I promise. I'm going to time warp just a little bit, just to get us a little closer. All right, that's good enough. So, and now since we made that positioning maneuver node, we can just pretty much watch it happen, as long as we're pointing the right way. And cut off. A little bit early, that's fine. It's, you know, imprecise. Man, this is like a glitch the game has right now. Where now it's loading. Auto-saving. Come on. There we go, we did it. Good job. Yeah. 80,000. Ultimately, we just got to manipulate our orbit at this point to get these, we can pick any of these intersect points, basically. I'm thinking the second one is closer already, so we might be looking at that. How do we get this closer? 20,000 kilometers? 20 kilometers? My mistake. Too much. We got to do less than that. So if we burn this way, I think I went too far. 70, you know, actually, while because I think we're pretty close to this ascending node, so this is like our angle difference. We're pretty tightly on, however, we're just going a little bit north. And this is the point where that intersects. So what I do to counteract that is I point us toward the anti-normal. It might make more sense if we're looking at the ship in relation to the planet. And I'm sorry if we're on the dark side of the planet right now. I'll turn on the lights. See, well, it doesn't help it much. But so since we're pointing toward the South Pole, basically, that can start to influence. If we burn, not that drastically, just do a soft little burn. If we try to zero that out more, it means it's good. That's what we want to see. So when you're rendezvousing with something specific. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's pretty good right there. So I'm going to point us prograde again, which just means the direction we're flying in, just forward. Add maneuver node. And I'm just going to play with these points to try to figure out what I have to do to get a maneuver, like a intersect point that is really close. And which way do I gotta go? This is kind of a wacky one. I'm not used to seeing it quite like this. 12.8, 7.3. I really try to aim to be like a kilometer or less. Let's go back that way. 5.5. You know, and I flew past my node, so it doesn't want me changing it anymore. I don't recommend this if you're new to the game, but since I know I'm going to have to be burning prograde, then for now I will just not use a node and I will just watch very carefully these points. In fact, I'm going to turn on caps lock so I have like really fine-tuned control over my throttle. 4.7. Oh man. Should try to get closer than that for now. I mean, I can always, like, when we get closer to the node, it's easier. I think we went past our... Nope, we could still get closer. 3.2, it looked like it was slowing down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait till we're closer to it and then do another thing to maneuver us. So I'll set a node over here. Come on. Let's see, do I go this way? 3.1. I'd also recommend if you're new to the game, you don't try to rendezvous on the dark side of the planet, but we're going to do that today because I don't care. I'm impatient. What do we have to do? What point do we have to manipulate to get that closer than that? This is more trouble than it normally is. So I think just because we're at different orbital altitudes, that's like the problem. Now we're getting closer. 2.2, 1.9. Now we're cooking. 1.6. Okay, I went too far. 1.1. I might have to live with 1. Might not get too much closer than that right now. Because like as long as you're close, you can kind of like just fly there. But if you're too far off, if you're more than a kilometer, you're just going to waste fuel. So you want to truly get it as close as you can. Normally I can get closer than that, but it's just causing problems right now. Okay, so it's time warp there. And you know, while I'm doing that, we made it to orbit. Cheers. So let's hit play on the album. So this is a cold open introductory track that one of the last things that was created for this project. It's just kind of I had my friend Maggie come over to play guitar on some other tracks, and she brought her whole dang pedal board with her. So we just messed around with all the looping pedals and made a bunch of noises, and then I added a couple synth layers and sort of threw this together. It's kind of like a mood setter. Just gonna get us a little closer to the node here. And that brings us to the first real song, track 2, There's Times. This is a good place to start out for the album. Yeah, pop punk song of the decade. I really hate the term pop punk, but I don't know what else to describe it as. Alternative. Like that means anything anymore. Let's just get closer. This is risky. Switch to targeting. So this distortion electric guitar is thanks to my friend Zach. I'm going to open the docking port shield. And actually, I'm not going to do retrograde. Targeting mode just means your prograde and retrograde change to reflect the velocity of your craft and the craft that you're targeting. But since the speed is so low. Anyway, Zach did the guitar in this. He also did most all of the drums on the album. All the acoustic drums. This little synth part is actually a max patch I created with this audio programming software. Just to, the sound itself isn't, that's just my keyboard, but I created random MIDI notes and fed them into my synthesizer with like a specific range of notes and speed and, you know, duration. Not really that complicated, but it sounds smart. This bridge sort of foreshadows the more electronic retrowave themes we have going on later in the album. This whole like project traverses from this like punk thing to, yeah, just dare I say 80s music, which I really hate that term because people just use it to say, oh, this song has a synthesizer. And it's kind of meaningless, but in my case, I think that I really am inspired by the sound of the 80s, or at least what I think the sound of the 80s was, because I didn't live through the 80s, so how would I know? Time warp is closer. Gotta be careful about that though. You can crash real easily when you're rendezvousing. You don't want to crash into the thing you're targeting. So now I'm going to zero out our speed as we are coming up on our next track, Grand Isle. This craft is unmanned, so I'm actually, ooh, our flashlight pointing towards it. I lit it up real nice. So I'm going to send one of the pilot astronauts on EVA, get the little jetpack propellant thing, and fly over there and take control of this craft. Ooh boy, don't slam into it. Okay, grabbed onto the ladder. Good job. Board. Turned off that engine just so I didn't mess up. But now that there's a pilot aboard, we can target the main craft, turn on our stability assist controls, and click target, and it just automatically points it right at that craft. Because I have all of these things unlocked because I played the game so much. You just have to do it manually if you aren't that far into the game, but that's not that hard. It's a good way to learn and get good at the game. So Grand Isle is a song about a specific park bench in my hometown on an island on the river. Place I visit in the best of times and the worst of times, as they say. And these clamps are magnetic, so if you're not perfect, it'll generally still draw towards each other, but you gotta be pretty dang close. Look at that. First try. So now I'm going to move our excess fuel from our lander craft into our main thing. Main rocket ship capsule. And then I can just get rid of this whole stage because it's just dead weight. Goodbye. Nice. Okay. This track has ukulele on it. That I hastily recorded. Now we can think about going to the moon. So the moon orbits counterclockwise. So like I was saying with the orbit thing, we gotta manipulate the opposite side from the opposite side. So I'm just eyeballing where I think it is. I don't know if this is right, but somewhere in that area. And there. That would put us into the moon's sphere of influence. I'm gonna see if I can fine tune this position to be as close as I can. It looks like it's about there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because I mean, you just gotta get there and try to use as least amount of fuel as possible, but like I said, we got tons of fuel. So, we are listening to Greatest Hits, one of my favorite tracks in the album. And yeah, just has a lot of sections to it that I think keep it interesting, even though it's kind of a long song. It's, yeah, I think I kept it interesting pretty well. These guitars were done by my friend Randy, and he did most of the bass as well for this track. I recorded most of the bass for the rest of the album. But, you know, I don't really play guitar that well, but I can fake my way through bass. Just get closer. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to start burning now. Reason being, while it looks like I'm burning kind of early, because you want to try to get it halfway. Burn time divided by 2, that much time left, and that's when you start. However, this engine is more powerful than our next stage. I know we don't have enough fuel to do this whole burn on this engine. So, there we go. This engine's light, but it burns slower, so I just wanted to start early, since I knew it would take more time than it was displayed. This guitar solo Randy did, he did not like it at all, but I loved it. And I think it, you know, even though he's not happy with it, he was like kind of frustrated with just noodling around and it not amounting to what he wanted, which what that was, I don't know. I think that sort of like frustration was, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, something like that. That kind of like came through and mirrored the underlying themes of lyrical despondency of not being able to achieve something you want. So he actually tried to like redo it in like another take. Ooh, I didn't burn far enough. Let's go a little bit more. A little more pro-grade. So even though he redid it, I liked the original take and I kept the original take because, and you know, maybe it's just because I listened to it so many times and I got used to it, but I thought it was pretty good. I like this bridge too. With a Vibraphone? Glockenspiel? I don't... Yeah, the little bell metal thing. I recorded that with a... Excuse me. Normally my video content, I can just like cut out things I don't like, but since we're doing this all the way through and, you know, it's gonna be like an hour-long video, I'm so sorry that, it is what it is. Goodbye, Earth. See you later. Hello, Moon. This is we're time warping, that's why it's going so fast. I really like writing just really simple, melodic, catchy things that some people hate, but those little earworms I think are important, especially to DIY indie music. Gotta keep it interesting, you know? So, now that we are in the moon's sphere of influence, we gotta burn retrograde, basically to slow us down, so that we can get closer to the moon and then set up an orbit from there. True orbit. So this is Adventurous Friend, and it's about a friend of mine that, I mean, maybe it's obvious in the song, maybe it's not. It's just, like, struggled with a lot of health issues, mental and physical, and despite what she didn't have, I found it inspiring because she never seemed unhappy for what she didn't have. Just this bundle of joy. And okay, the moon doesn't have any atmosphere, so you can get a really tight orbit going if you want, which I think I will do. The only thing you have to think about is that there's like ridges, like the edges of some of the craters are pretty tall, and you'll just slam right into them if you're, yeah, that's probably too close. We're not gonna go that close. Well, let's back it off. I like this just like distorted punk section, comes out of nowhere, followed by a chiptune sounding thing. I changed my mind, I want it closer than that. So we're gonna retrograde again. Just wasting all this fuel. This song, dare I say, follows the 21 Pilots Heart of Gold thing, where it's basically the same chord progression over and over, but it changes the arrangement each time. Which is a thing you can do, I guess. I don't know, I did it. Then there's this guitar solo by Zach. Zach again. And yeah, he did the acoustic guitar for this song and the distorted section, punk, random bridge thing. And he just tracked a solo that I didn't ask for as well, but I liked it, so I kept it. Let's get closer to the parapsis, the lowest point in the orbit. And now we can start circling out the orbit. Aw, isn't that a sweet ending? So cute. And that brings us to Love Song 6, conveniently also track 6. Some really fortunate track listing. That's close enough. Good old circular orbit. Alright. Look at those textures generating. We already have Valentina aboard. So, we can pretty much... I'm gonna quick save because I don't trust myself not to crash. We can decouple and go down to the surface. Undock. Oh. Don't normally do this when you're rendezvousing or undocking, but I'm gonna extend my solar panel and antenna now, just because I can, and I'll be careful, I promise. Because yeah, if you touch it or even fire a rocket engine near it, it'll just shatter. So don't do that. Retrograde. Alright. Goodbye. Let's extend that landing gear. So this track that we're listening to makes ample use of my Nord Lead 2X synth patch 141, which is made famous by the Killers. They used it in a lot of their first album, just like straight out of the box, very limited changes to the patch. So this is my obligatory Killers reference track.
He says, tell me, what are your thoughts on chaos?
I'm gonna go a little bit closer to this area here.
Would you give my soul a chance
I think.
to fight my greatest fear? She says, love me and I'll fight the pain I see behind your eyes.
Well, what does the inside of the craft look like? Sticky notes. Reminder, close the hatch, it says. Jenny was more than just a friend of mine. Just a obvious Killers reference. I have a flag or something on the moon there. I don't even know what that is. Alright, let's get out of that view. Start thinking about setting up our landing. So these engines are very small and lightweight, but they're not very powerful. So we gotta start burning well above the surface because they don't slow us down very fast. But we don't have to start yet, so I'll get a little closer. Let's try there. Again, so much of this game is just you get used to eyeballing things and knowing what's right. Even though man, they're loud engines, even though they're tiny. I hope I remember to turn them down when I edit this video. If not, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is us decreasing our speed very gradually. Obviously, this has to hit 0 or very close to 0 by the time we touch down or we crash and blow up. So you can see why I wanted to start early is it's decreasing slowly. Let's turn on our landing lights. It's just a spotlight that shines down, that's all it is. This is the first song that we tracked the drums to. In the day when we tracked all of the... Well, I shouldn't say that. Almost all of the drums were tracked in one day. Except for one song. And the songs that didn't need drums, obviously. This was the first one we did, and the drum part was apparently really hard, and Zach was struggling with it. And I was getting so nervous because we were using so much of our studio time. Hey, we did it! We landed. But yeah, we did it. It worked out. Got a good take. Turn off our lights. Extend our ladder. Now, think about getting out. And now that we're on the surface of the moon with lower gravity, it's a good time to listen to a song called Gravity. You know? Gravity, one of the more underrated tracks on this piece of art. I struggled with this one a lot, just getting all the funk type rhythms edited right. You can hear me just like strumming as hard as I can on an acoustic guitar with really dead strings. The moon's gravity is so low you can just fly around with that jetpack thing. Go tumble. That's another fun thing. Can I mean, don't do that too hard, you'll just die, but the other part of the problem with gravity being so low is sometimes you can actually tumble for a really long while if you're going too fast. I did that last time I played this game. Even though this is an underrated track, I like it a lot. Just because of all these like arpeggiating sections and... So I worked so hard on it, okay? What should we name this flag? Whoops, I have my caps lock on. I gave away what I was gonna say. Please like and subscribe. Now, to be clear, I'm not telling you guys to do that. It's just a total coincidence. That's just the name of the flag. You guys don't need to do that if you don't want. Only if you like the content I'm making, you know? So that line, "Become immortal and then die," is a quote from a 1960s French film, which name escapes me. I think it's in French, so like, how on earth would I remember? Yeah. I'm not like huge on quoting things in my music. Just on like randomly like that. But I don't know. I did for that one. So I thought it was a cool line. Oh, sure, why not? Let's take a surface sample. Alright, cool. Science points. Let's just get aboard and go home. The moon's so boring. There's nothing to do here. That brings us to what I really thought would be the most popular track in the album, Strings. Kind of sounds like a lead single. I don't know, it's not like getting the most Spotify plays by any means, so I was wrong. This song was originally kind of like a carbon copy of a St. Lucia song, Walking Away. A little bit of Two Door Cinema Club thrown in. But it kind of just became its own thing, which is what you want to have happen. Don't just copy people. I mean, I do it all the time, but be better than me. Come on. Alright, so I shut down those engines. So we're ready to... This is a totally separate stage here with its own engines. We're gonna decouple that and launch when we're ready. But we gotta wait for this spaceship to make its way around again. I had a lot of fun with this track, but I also struggled with it a lot. It's one of the last things I finished writing, anyway, I should say. But it's fun. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Oh man, I went too far. Okay, we're gonna warp it. Give it another orbit. I'm not gonna go crazy with that times 1000 warp this time. We got time, I don't gotta rush. So that station that plays everything but mostly just plays 80s rock is a Lansing station. Mike 101.7 FM. Mike plays everything. It's a real station. And also the parking lot is a local hometown Bob Evans parking lot. But anyway, enough about that. Let's go home. Ready? Nice. And these engines are not very powerful at all, but the moon's gravity is so low it doesn't matter. This is a very lightweight craft, so it's fine. Set as target. This is always tricky, trying to figure out how to rendezvous with this thing. It's just kind of gotta get into orbit first. So now that we are going away from the moon, it's time to listen to Away by Jammo Synthetica. Aren't you loving these segues? I'm so good at this. Away was one of my last recording projects at university, at least for my recording classes. The rest of the album actually is my capstone project. And yeah, I recycled some tracks from it that were school projects, but I did so much work just redoing some of them and completely writing new songs for it that I don't feel bad. It's not really plagiarism. Did a lot of work for it. I find that so wild that like a project you do for one class and then you also use it for another class, that's considered plagiarism, at least where I live. So you gotta be careful about that. Anyways, I digress. This was the inside joke with this song, since it's from my recording class. So I was trying to combine my recording teacher's two least favorite genres, which are disco and 80s synth pop. So trying to keep these verses just really fast and dry, hi-hat. The choruses being more like, you know, reverberant and open, and my innermost Bronsky beat, as I would put it. It was a fun one to put together. This is the one track the drums were recorded, not unlike our main drum session day. I guess its own thing. So I actually managed to time this pretty well where the points are... I wonder if we can manage to set up that rendezvous point even before we truly have an orbit set. I wonder if that's a really bad idea. It might be. But, oh well. Let's try it. Let's go for this one. Yeah, we can manage. Get that as close to 0 as we can. Realistically. Well, that's pretty good. I don't think it's going to get too much closer than that. So we also have to watch our relative speed, which is 54. Kind of high in this case. At least considering like the rocket engine we have, which is not very powerful. But we're going to be okay. Just don't worry, baby. We're fine. Target. The stability assist control is very powerful because it's such a small, lightweight craft that is just like overpowered. I wonder if I think I can turn that down. Wheel authority. Yeah, it makes it a little bit smoother. I'm gonna go a little bit. I don't know. It just seems like jarring.
That's okay, I think. There's nothing wrong with being alone if you like your car or happy with the roads you drive on.
So, passenger seat.
Think for myself, so uninterrupted.
The very first song created for this project. I just wanted to do something different than my past music I used to create, which was all just like really basic pop music, pop punk. And so I had been listening to a lot of M83 at the time and said, hey, I like it. Let's make that. And then it's just like, you know, a spoken word thing, which different, I guess. I wonder if I burned the anti-normal, that would get us closer to 0.6. Ooh, it is. I'm so smart.
People seem to like riding with me, but they always get out when they get where they're going. Can't we just keep driving? I tell people that I'm a good driver, and I honestly believe that I am. I'll drive slower if it makes you more comfortable. Please just let me know.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
We can listen to music if you want.
That's like pretty dang good. One.
But sometimes my CD player doesn't work very well on roads that are rough.
I'm actually doing amazingly well on fuel. Oh, these engines are a little more powerful than I thought. They're dropping speed pretty well. Now, try to get that retrograde node over the top of our anti-craft point, which means we're pointing directly away from the craft is what that circle thing means. That way, by pushing the retrograde point over it, it means we're going directly towards it. Whoa, we're going too fast. Whew, man. That was scary. Oh, bumped right into it. So I really should have pulled back in that solar panel, because if I would have crashed into that, it would have just broke it off, which isn't a huge deal. This thing has so much power to begin with, just with these side solar panels. It's not really necessary, but it would be aesthetically displeasing if I broke it. And if you were on like a mission at like Mars or really far away, that would be a problem if you broke the solar panels that you actually need. Alright, just a little tiny bit. Don't want to go crazy. Just bounce right off of it if you hit it too hard. So, passenger seat. What else can I say about that? It's like Love Song 6, it's just totally fictitious. It's just me exploring fears. I think, obviously, considering the fact that everything is presented in the future tense, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, I love this arpeggiating synth part, though. Had a lot of fun making that. I just love, like, it's just beautiful. This, like, Nord patch. It's like a combination of two patches that got mushed together. I think that, like, the envelope of one went over the top of another one in my presets. Like, the system glitched. And I saved it as its own preset because I liked it. I need to just, like, tweak it a little bit, but... Alright, we're connected. Might as well move our person back to there. So now everyone is aboard there. I could have gone EVA and just, like, manually had her climb onto the ladder, but maybe I should have done that. That would have been more fun. Let's move our... You know, actually, since I took that surface sample, I need to go get it. So this time I will go EVA. I left that precious piece of science aboard the lander. And we're going to disconnect from this lander and basically just leave it in orbit of the moon because we don't need it and it's just extra weight. We probably have enough fuel. We could just lug it home if we want, but good practice would be to just leave it. It's just space junk at this point. Okay, we got our precious science report. Now let's just take it and climb aboard. Don't you love a good droning, ominous Jason's Lair synthscape to precede a song about a rogue machine AI thing? Of course, is the machine really the rogue? Or does the... I don't know. We'll get there. Don't worry. So, disconnect. Undock. And I'm just right-clicking on these parts to, like, pull up there. The things you can do to interact with it. Close shield. Like, for example, this is the solar panel. I can right click on it and say extend. I happen to have like a quick key set up to extend both the solar panel and this antenna at the same time. Extend. But you can also just do it manually. That's what you do most of the time. I have this gravity thing. I can pull science data from that. Cool, so now I'll use my quick key and I'll put it away. Come on. So now... Oh, so this section about the satellite falling, people that really follow my music to a weird extent might notice that it's kind of just this like throwaway song that I made in 2016 for a science project, an astronomy class, where I was like, I made a video about like how to put something in orbit. Kind of like, you know, what I'm doing today. Anyway, and I made this like throwaway music for it. It's just this arpeggiating chiptune type synth things. I pulled that project file into this song just for fun and kind of manipulated it a little bit, but just, yeah. So it's like this reference that nobody knows but me. So I have found that if you're going back to the Earth from the moon, it seems to me like the most efficient place to do your burn is like on this position, like where the moon will be, like coming around. Doesn't have to be perfect, but somewhere like that. And that way, once we hit the moon's escape velocity, you know, pulls us within the orbit of the moon. It's like it uses the gravity to like reverse slingshot. The vocoder voicing is supposed to be the machine, so anytime you hear a vocoder effect, I mean, obviously, I don't think I have to explain that. I love that just brief synth metal breakdown. Despite this being very electronic part of the album, these are still acoustic drums, largely. I think entirely in this song. I used very sparingly a couple drum samples of 80s, like Lin drum, I think. It's been so long. Man, I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure it's like a Lin drum snare and a kick at one point, but not in this song, so that's not relevant. Anyway, let's get a little closer. I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's just like a vague point. We don't have to be precise here.
Or are you something in between? Is this really the inferno to ignite? Do you think and do you feel? Is the potential the real? Where are you slave to that which holds your open life?
This flute solo was done by my sister, both parts of the duet. And I don't think she practiced it at all. I sent her the music, and I think, but she just like sight read it and did amazing. So it's fine. Just amazing what real musicians can do. I sit here and just like push buttons and figure out what fret of a bass guitar is the note I need and just record that. Okay, that's I'm a little better than that, but still. Yeah, just real musicianship is something that we need more of in music these days. Okay, we did it. We're at escape velocity, so I'm just gonna time warp. By the way, did you guys get the whole thing with like how that song, like who's really the rogue and who's the machine? Because Jason, as it's pointed out, is bound by his impulses to create something new and be the first to do something like everyone else tries to do. And he creates this machine who is able to think for itself. So it's like, who's really the machine and who is the rogue entity? Something to think about, you know? Probably not surprising to, or that interesting or unexpected, but I like to pretend it is. So, I'm just burning retrograde to lower our orbit, and if we get it below that 70,000 meters threshold point, we'll be hitting air resistance, and that air will slow us down. Tricky thing is, you don't have to worry about it too much with the Earth, especially if you have a heat shield, which I think I do in this craft. If you hit it too steep, you'll just burn up, so don't do that. But, yeah. Now we just wait. I can time warp it, I guess, but... while we do that, what can I say about this song? Because we're almost to the end of the album, but we're almost back to the Earth, so I can just talk for a minute, I think. I really struggle to write instrumental music, which might sound odd, because I know a lot of people like to write music and then come up with lyrics for it, but I don't like to do that. I like to ideally have like maybe just a bare bones framework of chord progressions or a melody or something to start off with, but beyond that, I like to come up with the lyrics and then the song map in the planning stage. Like I'll generally have all of the lyrics done before I really start writing or recording too much. Because I think that process, like one informs the other. You can have instances like in Love Song 6 where I say, and maybe she plays the bass guitar, and then there's a bass guitar sound. So that sort of like constraint of like thinking that way actually helps me be more creative. So this instrumental stuff where I know it's just going to be instrumental and don't have to think about structuring for lyrics, and I don't know. Sorry, am I making you dizzy? Yeah, but it's okay. It's just like pure unleaded synthwave, largely created with the Nord Lead 2X. A lot of the patches you're hearing, not all of them, but it's again that I believe same patch as Passenger Seat that appreciated, just higher, with a little bit more reverb. Oh man, sometimes the game glitches and you just fling right past where the atmosphere should be thrown, slowing you down. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. Okay. Now we're gonna come back to the Earth now. This is the first time we're coming past it, and not the, just pretend. Just, you know, bear with me on the illusion. So, we're, I'm sorry, just half a beer and I'm gone. The last track, AHD-JS2419, Part 2, is, wow, pretty. My digital audio workstation that I use to record music is, it's called Mixcraft, actually. It comes with one of the presets, like one of the soft synths that it just happens to have, is this ME80. It's called ME80. It's really a CS80 emulator, the Yamaha CS80, which is a beautiful 80s piece of equipment. It was used in like Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire, stuff like that. And it has so much range to it, like what timbral sounds it can create. So I tried to like where the composition kind of lacks in this. Get rid of that stage. Now we just have our heat shield. Where the composition kind of is lacking, I hope the beauty of the synth patch makes up for that. It's just like a little outro, simple thing to calm you down, help you get ready to drift off to sleep or whatever you're gonna do after this. One of Metric's albums has like a part 1 and part 2 instrumental tracks at the end of the album that kind of follow the same like vibe of like one's really bombastic and full, and then the second's just kind of like a calming outro. So I just copied them, I guess. Kind of on accident, kind of on purpose. And that's it. That's the album. Thanks for listening. Now we just gotta fall back to the Earth. And I'm gonna be careful about time warping so I don't forget to deploy my parachutes. I'm telling you folks so I also remember. I'm gonna... If we were on the light side of the Earth, I'd be able to tell how close we are to the ground. The texturing is hard to see in the dark. I just deploy them now, just to be safe. Yeah, thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for everyone that helped me on this album, recording it and supporting it and listening to it and all that. People that offered me critiques of my mixes. Thank you especially to Zach McCord, because he probably recorded. That's just our dead rocket engine blowing up. We're fine. Yep, see, it just went boom. Anyway, Zach just helped me with so much. He did all those drums and a lot of the guitar parts. So yeah, support him. He has some music. He's a sales agent at Sweetwater Sound if you have any need for audio equipment. I just bought an audio interface from him a couple weeks ago. I'd heartily recommend his services. I'll put a link to his Sweetwater page below, I guess. I don't know if that's what he wants or not. While we're drifting to the ground, one last thing. This video is sponsored by Jammo Synthetica t-shirts, which you can also buy at the link in the description. And I don't get paid a whole lot from them. It's just like, but you know, it's mainly just like supporting the brand. You know, people see you with the shirt and like, oh, what's that? You'd be like, I don't know. You know what I mean though. So like that's the form of support that I think is really cool. I'm gonna turn my lights off. I don't need that on. Oh, let me show you a new feature that they have in this updated version of this game. Deploy shoot. We can fly around. Glide. We just don't want to hit our descending craft because then our parachute cords detach and then we fall to our death. So don't want to do that. Oops, we're going backwards somehow. Come on, go down. So, thank you for spending your time watching this. And I'll awkwardly walk back to the craft and stare at you. Yeah, thank you for all of your support. Also, the album is at the link below, if that wasn't obvious. Like, that's the whole reason we're here. So, we made it. Earth to the moon and back. It's that easy. It's that easy, Elon Musk. Okay, goodbye.